I hope you're all well and staying safe in these crazy times. So today I'm showing you one of my favourite home comfort foods, which is a pork and chorizo pie. We're going to make our own short crust pastry. It's going to be absolutely delicious. So without further ado, let's crack on with the recipe. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take half a kilo or 500 grams of diced pork shoulder. We're going to drizzle with a good amount of sunflower oil. We're going to season generously with some salt. And then with our hands we're just going to work the salt in, massaging the meat, and this is going to help tenderize the meat a little bit and also work that seasoning in. Okay, so once you've worked the salt into the pork, we'll now set this aside and we'll start preparing some of the other ingredients ready for the pie filling. Okay, so I'm just going to prepare some spring onions which will help make the filling for the pie. I'm using spring onions, but you can use white onions, however you want to do it. I'm just going to take the whole spring onion and the green pieces too and give them a nice rough chop. And then I'm going to place these in a bowl. If you're using spring onions like me, you use the green part and the white part, they're both very good. Okay, so now we're going to take 4 cloves of garlic, use the back of a knife, just give them a tap to crush them a little bit, and then just remove all the skin. Okay, so once you've peeled your garlic, just use your knife and roughly slice or chop the garlic. Doesn't need to be anything fancy or special. So once you have your garlic all sliced up and roughly chopped, however you want to do it, you're going to add this to the onions. So take a couple of button mushrooms and give them a slice. You can use almost any mushrooms if you want, chestnut mushrooms, field mushrooms, they all work really well in this recipe. So give them a nice slice and then put them to the side in a bowl. Okay, so now we'll prepare the chorizo for this recipe. I'm using a traditional Spanish chorizo, which is really mild in spice, but you could use one that's a bit spicier, or a different style of chorizo is completely fine. The great thing about chorizo is when it cooks and bakes, all the fat and all the flavours will render out, giving it a lovely flavour. So we're just going to roughly dice this and set this aside. So once we have all our ingredients prepared, into a really nice hot pan, we're going to add our diced pork shoulder, and we're going to give this a really good sear, get it beautifully coloured, and this is really going to enhance the flavour in the pie. It's going to render out some of that beautiful pork fat, make it go all nice and crispy, and this is going to add a really great flavour and a base. So after we have a really nice sear on our pork and a beautiful colour, we're going to add our onions and our garlic, and we're going to saute them off for a few minutes. So we'll also add our diced chorizo now, and we're going to cook this out with the other ingredients to help bring out some of the fats and the flavours from the chorizo. So once the onions and the garlic are beautiful and softened, and some of the fat has started to render out the chorizo, we're going to add our sliced mushrooms and give them a good stir. So now we'll deglaze the pan with a good glug of chicken stock, or you could use vegetable stock if you like, but chicken stock works really well. Once you've added your chicken stock, we're going to bring it back to the boil, and then we're going to turn it down to a simmer, and we're going to cook this out for an hour until the pork shoulder starts to tenderize. Okay, so while the pie filling is cooking, we're going to carry on and make our pastry. We're going to use a short crust pastry for this recipe, which works really well. So into a blender, we're going to add 150 grams of all-purpose flour, about a tablespoon of baking powder, a good pinch of salt, and some butter. Then you're going to blitz this until the butter is all incorporated, and then we're going to add a drop of cold water just to bring it together to form the dough. Okay, so when the ingredients start to come together, it should look a little bit like this. It should start to go a little bit sticky and coming together, but try not to overwork it at this stage. So we're going to turn it out onto a slightly floured surface and just work it just to bring it together. We're going to wrap it in cling film and we're going to set it in the fridge for a good hour or so until the filling's ready, and this will allow the pastry to rest and set up. So now we're back to check on the pie filling. It's all beautiful and reduced and really thick and almost like a gravy-like consistency. I'm going to add a little bit more stock just to let it down just a little bit, and then some fresh herbs. So we're going to take some fresh parsley, bunch it up, and then roughly shred it. And then we'll do the same again with some fresh chives. You can use any herbs you want, works really well with this recipe. We'll add this to the pie filling once you're ready. So by now our pastry should be beautiful and chilled. Just going to remove it from the fridge onto a lightly floured surface. For some reason my rolling pin decided to disappear, so I'm going to use a bottle to roll this out. So you're looking for something that's about a couple of millimeters thick. You don't need to go too thin. You want to achieve a really nice buttery, flaky pastry. So once you have it at the desired thickness. So we're going to take our beautiful homemade pastry and just lay it over the pan and over the pie filling. Of course you could tip the filling into an actual pie dish and do the same with this, but I think it works really well this way, and obviously uses less equipment. So if you don't have a decent pie dish, this is a good way to do it. So then we're just going to quickly egg wash the pastry, give a season with salt. So now then we'll put this into a preheated oven around 200 degrees Celsius for about 30 minutes. After 30 minutes or so you should have something beautiful and golden, a nice crispy topping. Go ahead, cut yourself a beautiful slice and enjoy the fruits of your labour. It looks absolutely beautiful.